Helsinki on a clear summer day. It is here, to the north shore of the city, that family Donner, originating from Germany, built a house. The house stands in the immediate vicinity of iconic landmarks, such as churches, the presidential palace, the university, and various governmental ministries. In the heart of the city, the house finds itself surrounded by the architectural echoes of influence and governance. In the courtyard, two smaller buildings complement the main structure. Each edifice stands not just as a home, but as a testament to the family's connection to the cultural and administrative heart of Helsinki and Finland. One of the courtyard buildings, for many decades, was a center for the Finnish film industry, as here, Jörn, the Oscar-winning producer for Bergman's Fanny and Alexander, had his offices. Within the main building, the Donner family's apartment shelters one of the most extensive private book collections in the country. Among the volumes, there were also books specifically dedicated to Berlin. Books like Mark Arnold Forster's The Siege of Berlin, Bernd Engelmann's Berlin eine Stadt wie keine andere, Arvid Friedborg's Destination Berlin, Otto Friedrich's Weltstadt Berlin, Größe und Untergangs, etc., etc. Here in the 1950s, young Donner is writing a poem in the Solsidan radio program. Few years earlier, Stig Dagerman, the Swedish journalist, has written a book called German Autumn about post-war Germany. Today in London, the book was readily accessible on the shelves of the Foyles bookshop. Another book has become more rare. In 1958, Jörn Donner made a breakthrough with his own book about Berlin. It begins with one of the most beautiful sentences ever to have been written in Finland. Donner tells us how he loves the loneliness of big cities that are surrounded by warmth like Rome or memories of freedom like Paris. But for him, the dangerous and tempting loneliness that Berlin stands for is what he loves most. Once, an airplane taxis to Tempelhof. In 1958, there is no wall yet in Berlin, but Berlin, like Europe, is divided. The book is published in Swedish, Finnish, and English. The English edition, published by Indiana University, comes with a foreword by Stephen Spender, a British journalist who took part in the Spanish Civil War and lived in Berlin. He writes that when he reads Donner's book, he knows why he ended up living in Berlin and why he stayed until Hitler. Spender himself had started to work in the 1920s on a novel set in Germany, which was finally published in 1988. Spender said that 1929 was the last year of that strange Indian summer, the Weimar Republic. For many of my friends and for myself, Germany seemed a paradise where there was no censorship and young Germans enjoyed extraordinary freedom in their lives. End of quote. If a city can be a lover, then Berlin is one of Donner's lasting relationships. In Berlin, he films sections to his film Adventure Starts Here with Harriet Anderson. In Berlin, he meets and befriends Marlene Dietrich. In Berlin, he is one of the founders of the European Film Academy, bringing Ingmar Bergman as its first president. Over years, new editions of the book are published and sections updated. But Donner never moves to Berlin. He keeps the north shore of Helsinki as his base. He will make many documentary films about his hometown, but only visits Berlin in TV programs and series. The book gains a legendary status. At times it can still be seen mentioned in new books about Berlin. After Berlin in 1962, he sets to visit and write about the former Austro-Hungarian Empire. In Vienna, here too, he experiences love and literature. He visits Prague, Budapest, Sarajevo, the former lands of the Habsburgs. His European journey continues. Later in life, he becomes a member of the European Parliament. He writes other report books on Europe, Finland, plans one on the Middle East. Berlin and Vienna share historical parallels despite their distinct identities. Both cities have been central to Europe's historical narrative, witnessing the rise and fall of empires. In the 20th century and beyond, both cities are faced with the consequences of the World Wars and the Cold War. After the war, both Berlin and Vienna have a presence of Russian troops. Later, both turn to Russia for cheap energy. In 1968, Jörn travels around the world and writes the World Book. The journeys and commentary on world affairs continues to the end of his life. The Berlin book includes a joke from 1955, apparently a favorite among the citizens. A tourist to a taxi driver on the way from the zoo station. "I hardly recognize the place. I haven't been in Berlin for 20 years. The taxi driver, indifferently, "Well, you haven't missed anything.